Greetings, Cleveland, and welcome to Creative Focus, the show that illuminates some of Cleveland's most talented and creative artists across the genres of dance, film, music, theater, and visual arts. I'm your host, Cornell Callum III, and I'm thrilled to have as my guest today the president and CEO of Assembly for the Arts, Mr. Jeremy Johnson. Jeremy, welcome to Creative Focus, man. Let's chop it up.
It's a pleasure to be here. I'm very excited about this.
My pleasure is all mine. So you grew up in Huff and Glenville, correct? And you matriculated to university school. And I was saying earlier, you know, we have that connection because I taught there for a year and a year at university school. And then I taught and coached the girls basketball at Glenville High School. So how did you get to US?
Well, it's quite the story, but I went to public schools in Cleveland through 8th grade, and we had a wonderful guidance counselor at FDR Junior High School in Glenville, Mr. Turner, and one day a guy came, tall white guy, from out in the suburbs came, and I guess he spoke with Mr. Turner. He said he was looking for young folks from our school who might be eligible, who might appreciate getting into a prep school environment. That guy's name was Jeff Morton, who's still alive. Long story short, I went from being at FDR Junior High School in Glenville, and the next year I was in 9th grade at university school through a scholarship program called A Better Chance, and it changed my life. It changed the trajectory of my life, going from being where I was in one part of our great land in urban Cleveland to the trees of Hunting Valley.
How was the transition for you? Was it difficult?
Well, there was a culture shock. So right before I started, the first year I started 9th grade, they had an orientation in the summer where they sort of get you to sort of ease you in. And I remember, thinking, I'm going to be out of this fancy school. I better put on my best clothes. So at the time, do you remember these stacks and platform shoes?
Yeah.
So I'm young enough. So I said, I'm going to get on my platform shoes. I'm going to be dressed up.
Right.
But I was dressed the way we dressed in Cleveland. So I got out there that first day to university school, and nobody else was wearing platform shoes. They were taking me out to the soccer fields. I'm like sinking in. It's like, I never wore platform shoes again.
Okay. Oh.
So it was a little bit of a cultural change, obviously, for me. The biggest change, though, was just the love of learning in the classroom, not by the teachers, but by the students. And I'd never been around the other young students that they couldn't wait to learn about chemistry and math, and it's like these kids are really high on education,
right.
So that whole thing was just mind blowing for me because back where I was from, the neighborhood, school wasn't always the funnest thing that kids wanted to do, but I always enjoyed it. So that was a big change where education became such a focal point for the young people, and I was part of that.
Yeah, and I agree with that because I felt that even as a teacher at US and then as a teacher at Glenville, they were like night and day, but we did the best we could where we were, you know what I'm saying? So give us a little bit of background for the arts and how you wound up at Assembly for the Arts.
It still goes back to childhood, like so many things that influence us. So growing up in Cleveland, public schools, in my public schools, we had teachers that really focused on arts, and they made a big impression on me, including the field trips. So in 3rd grade, it's at Columbia Elementary School, in 4th grade, every year we would take a trip to the Cleveland Orchestra, or we would go to the Cleveland Museum of Art. And sometimes in the summer, because at the time I was living in Glenville, when I was really young, my mom, because she was busy, there was a lot of kids. She said, y'all get out of here. It's Saturday. Y'all go visit those museums. And me and my brother, Jonathan, 11 months younger, we were always together. We would go to the Cleveland Museum of Art because it was free. Right. And we would go into the Hall of Knights with all those armors, and we would pretend we were knights. And or we would be at the lagoon and we'd be feeding the ducks and the geese. That, and had those beautiful buildings just literally steps away from at that time when I was living in Huff. That was just amazing. Or going to Karamu for the holidays to see Black Nativity.
Right.
So these institutions, arts institutions in Cleveland, had a big impression on my life. And growing up, to fast forward it, I wanted to work around artists and creatives. And so I eventually got my degree in arts management, and I get to still be around artists and creatives and beauty and people that are creating things and institutions that I believe are important for our city. But it started as a youth. And I always got to tell my story about the music school settlement where I took piano lessons. That was a big one. That was so great for me to be able to walk to the, it's called now the music settlement.
Okay.
The settlement, but it's called the Cleveland Music School Settlement. It had a longer name back then. That was so important. My mother scraped together her pennies for me to take those piano lessons.
Do you still play the piano?
From time to time, from time to time. I played for, as a kid I played, and as a young teenager I played for my father's church. He was pastor of several Baptist churches, so I played for the junior choir. Okay. But not only did I play by ear, those music lessons I learned how to read music, so I could work my way through a hymnal pretty good. So that was good.
Let's talk about the Assembly for the Arts. What is that organization, and what is its mission?
Assembly for the Arts, let's take the name, Assembly, and that says a lot of it. How are we assembling people and assembling different parts of our community to be about and to support and invest in the arts? It's a new name. We've had several names.
Right.
I would encourage any marketers or nonprofit leaders, don't change your name 3 times in 4 years, because that's what we did. We're going to stick with Assembly. We used to be called CPAC back in the day.
I remember.
And that was a big organization that helped to get money, public money into the hands of arts nonprofits. We're now known as Assembly, and I like to say it's a 2-pronged mission. And if you go on our website, you're going to see a lot of words, but I've narrowed it down to 2 things. Our mission is to expand the pie of resources for this big arts and culture sector. Expand the pie of resources. A lot of times that has to do with money, technical support, convening folks. What are the resources that we need? So how are we expanding the pie? Not for one organization, not for one artist, but the whole umbrella. The second part of what we're doing, which is equally important, how are we increasing the equity? Racial equity I'm talking about. Equity that gets to communities that haven't been served. So 2 things. If you have a Venn diagram, I think one circle overlapping the other circle. Increase the pie resources, expand the equity. And that's our big mission. And we do that in a lot of different ways, which I'm sure we'll talk about it. But it's a great mission to have. And it speaks to what Cleveland should be about. So we're excited to be pushing that. Very excited about that.
And how does the organization serve the local artists and the arts community, would you say?
I'm so glad you asked that. I think with any nonprofit, it starts with, who are you as an organization? And do you reflect the people that you're serving? Do you reflect the people that you are serving? Easier said than done. In our case, since we reinvented ourselves, I said we had a new name. We didn't just have a new name. We created a new mission, and we have a new reconstituted board. On that board are artists. But we also have philanthropists. We also have corporate people. We also have community leaders. We make sure that there are artists that are part of that board to help advise us, to inform how are we investing in, how are we treating, how are we supporting. But that's really important. Our board is also diverse and reflective of the community. 3/4 of our board are people of color. That's saying a lot with a board of 24, 25 people. Would that more of our organizations would have that reflection of our community. So we were able to restart that when we created Assembly 3 years ago. So I feel very privileged and honored that I was able to start with a board that was more reflective of the community that we needed to be. So having artists on our board, having community people on our board, that's the first thing. And we continue to work at it, and we'll get into some of that, I'm sure, with some more questions you might have.
And what are some of the programs that are available for artists through the Assembly for the Arts?
So, great question. Let me go back to the resources. One of the big needs of artists is, I'll just put it simply, funding, money, grants, money to survive, money to do their craft. So one of the big programs we did was in the aftermath of the pandemic, and we're still suffering from the aftermath in the arts community. You remember everything stopped. If you were an artist, if you were an arts organization, you closed down. I talked to some jazz musicians, or one musician, he was a jazz musician. He played for funerals. Everything stopped. He was couch surfing for a year, 2 years. Church services. It was really bad. So what did we do? What are the programs that we did we grabbed a hold of an opportunity. Let me remind you, there were all these millions and millions of dollars floating down from Washington, D.C. to help those who were suffering from the pandemic. They were called ARPA funds, American Rescue Plan Act. We've heard that. So I learned money was coming to the county for ARPA. Money was coming to the city for ARPA. So what did Assembly do? What kind of program? We reached out to those elected officials, those government officials. We said, we need to carve out some of these dollars to support our artist community. And that's what we did. We did it with both the county and the city. We got $3 million in ARPA funds from the county. They were great. And we helped distribute those to artists. We had a lot of programs, so the artists knew about it. Oftentimes these programs come and people don't know about them.
Right.
So that was the role we played. We didn't just put it on a website and only the people who knew the secret website learned about it. We literally went to Glenville and Larchmere, and we went to the Near West Side. We made sure the community, if you're an artist, you're a musician, you're a practicing artist, or you've been affected by the pandemic, you are eligible for these funds. Assembly's here to help you. So that was one of the programs, and we did a couple other programs like that also with the city. So the other programs we do are about bringing folks together and educating them. So many artists they should think of themselves as entrepreneurs, as business people, but they may not know how to do a business plan. They may not know how to connect with marketing. So we bring them together with organizations that do that. We do that big time. And we also help to pass through dollars working with our sister organization, Cuyahoga Arts and Culture, which is a government agency that focuses on nonprofits, but we work with them to make sure other parts of our arts group, our community, are served.
Are there any other organizations or people that you collaborate with in the Assembly?
I would say collaboration should be our middle name. We're always collaborating. So I mentioned Cuyahoga Arts and Culture. That's an important one because they have a special tax that they get money for arts for. And we work closely to make sure those dollars are also getting to our individual artists. But we've also, one of our great collaborations we had the last few years is a project called Play It Forward. Not Pay It Forward, but Play It Forward. And it was developed by City Councilman Kevin Conwell, and it puts gently used instruments that people have all over the region. Maybe they have a guitar they haven't played, or a drum kit, or a violin. And we did a campaign for them to, take those out of your closets, out of your attic, out of basement. We have tons of young people right here in Cleveland who can't afford those instruments. Let's put those instruments in their hands and connect them to groups that can train them and give them lessons. So that was a partnership collaboration with the City of Cleveland, with the Music Settlement, with the Cleveland Orchestra, with the Rock Hall, with Happy Dog, with Flamicos, with the Center for Arts Inspired Learning. It was a great partnership, and we're continuing it to this day to get the community to connect with our Cleveland youth. I love that collaboration.
Yeah, that's wonderful. How would you describe the Cleveland arts community?
That is a really good question. I get asked that a lot. It's a community that is in transition, and I believe on the rise. There are needs in our community. The needs of artists, they often mirror the needs of our general community. Needs around housing, needs around fair wages, needs around places to work, needs around connectivity, health insurance. Our arts community is stronger now than we were. I'm going to tell you why. When I first started this job 3 years ago, we didn't have a leader in City Hall at that time who was leading arts and culture at a cabinet level. Now, you know what this is about because you've been in that position. Through our advocacy, when there were several mayors running for office, we asked each of them, would you place a senior person in your cabinet devoted to arts and culture? The person who won the election, Mayor Justin Bibb, actually they all said they would do it. When he won, he stayed true to that. So one thing we have going now for our great city is we have a senior strategist for arts, culture, and the creative economy. She's been placed in City Hall, and that was through our advocacy that we had heard from artists. They said, we need somebody in City Hall at the highest level. So we took those concerns and we took it to City Hall. So that is also, I think, a way to talk about what is the arts community like now. Mm-hmm. We have Assembly for the Arts. We have a leader in City Hall working with the mayor to connect the dots. Connecting the dots in City Hall can be complicated. Right. If you're trying to push one thing, getting your permits, Rhonda Brown is there for us now. And that was through our advocacy. I think that's good for the city because we have a point person working with the mayor. That's great for the region.
What are some of the challenges in your position as president and CEO of Assembly for the Arts, would you say?
Priorities, always priorities. What are you going to prioritize? Literally, we have the word arts in our name. Arts could mean anything from soup to nuts. We have to zero on what are the pressing things that we can focus on because we have limited staff. There are 5, 6 of us, but we represent an industry across several counties. It's a $9.1 billion industry before COVID across several counties, if you talk about all the creative industries here. But we are 5, 6 people. So prioritizing where are we going to get the biggest bang for our buck? So I mentioned, what are the challenges? Figuring out with our board what we're going to go after. So what we've been doing about expanding that pie, I told you about those ARPA funds. And the second biggest thing that we're tackling right now is Cuyahoga Arts and Culture has a tax that's about to expire. They've been supported by a cigarette tax. So we are working to make sure that voters go to the polls and vote on that issue so we can add 3.5 cents per cigarette. It's a cigarette tax per cigarette. And that's going to help 400 nonprofit cultural organizations will benefit over 10 years. We estimate it's going to bring $160 million to some 400 nonprofit organizations. So where do we get the biggest bang for our buck? So that's the challenge. Where do we find the biggest bang? Doing that. Can we work with other partners to help educate and provide professional development for artists? That's another thing. We can't do everything ourselves. So part of the challenge for any organization, how are you collaborating, going with people who have your strengths? So there are organizations across our region. They are experts at business development. We are working with them to work with our artist community. Because as an organization of 6 people, we can't do it all, but we are the clearinghouse to figure out where do we turn and how do we bring people, how do we assemble all of these great partners to lift up our creative community.
What are you proud of most, the Assembly for the Arts as a director?
I am proud of the fact that Cleveland is a great city for the arts, and it's becoming a city of equity. When I look at new leaders in the arts community, like the new head of the Greater Cleveland, the Cleveland International Film Festival, you have to interview Hermione Malone, African-American woman who's returned to Cleveland to lead up that big organization. When I think about, of course, Karamu, their new capital campaign, really to take this 100-year-old institution and help to level it up with our other grand institutions. That is happening right now. So I am proud of those movements here in Cleveland, but I can't rest on any laurels, I'll be clear with you. I'm proud of the fact that we have a senior cabinet official in City Hall through our efforts. That makes me really proud. I am proud that that our organization, we're moving to the Midtown near Huff. I mentioned that to you earlier. That's part of a movement to layer investments in an area that my family once lived in, the Huff area, historically Black area that experienced redlining. We're going to be part of the rebirth and the reimagination and investing in communities there along with the Cleveland Foundation. So I'm proud of the fact that I am part and Assembly is part of how do we reinvest in historically marginalized communities, both geographically and in other ways. So that's really what I'm really proud of. Many different things. There's not one thing, but collectively, we're moving in the right direction. We have to move in the right direction. So I think Assembly is a big part of that. So I'm really proud of the direction we're moving our city.
So let me give you a hypothetical. Here's an artist, a struggling artist who is not sure what direction he or she should go. And somebody says, hey, call the Assembly for the Arts. How can the organization help that person?
Well, I encourage artists to become members of Assembly. And let me give you an example. There's an artist, her name is Sylvia. I'm going to mispronounce her last name, so I'm not going to try to, but her first name is Sylvia. So Sylvia is an artist. She does three-dimensional art. She creates these sort of modern, contemporary African masks, and they're wonderful. She came to one of our we have assemblies. We literally bring folks together every quarter. So she came to one of these assemblies. So she's trying to connect with other people. So she sits down and she's talking to one of her friends. She says, I need to get an exhibit for my work. How do I get, and the woman in front of her overhears her. You're looking for a place to exhibit. Hey, I got a new gallery in Old Brooklyn. Let's talk. Fast forward a few months later, Sylvia had a one-woman show at a gallery in Old Brooklyn that we covered, that was covered by the Can Journal. It's great to be able to be a forum where people come together so that we could say to that individual artist, come to an assembly, meet other people who can help you further your craft, who can help you further your business, who can help you further what you want to be about as far as elevating yourself as an artist. I can give you another story.
Please.
An artist named Ariel Vergas. He is a fabulous muralist, conceptual artist. He was invited to one of our gatherings at a gallery called Spaces. And there he met, he's a Afro-Puerto Rican artist. There he met a gentleman named Darl Schaff. Darl Schaff has a new gallery in the Slavic Village neighborhood on Broadway. They connected. Darl commissioned him to do an art piece just for Darl's work. Out of that, Ariel met through assemblies between where he met the folks who run MoCA, the Museum of Contemporary Art. He met the folks who run the Julio de Burgos Cultural Center. Since that meeting at Spaces, within less than a year, he's had multiple exhibits across the city. And get this, he applied for this Transformative Arts Fund, which was a $3 million massive application process. He and his collection of other artists and partners just won a 6-figure award to put murals and arts work across the Near West Side. It all started at a gathering that Assembly brought together artists and arts-minded people. It all started there. And that's what I'm proud of. Are we bringing folks together so they can meet others, convene? I call it the power of convening. The power of convening is so important. Not the sexiest thing, but the results are amazing. And that gets back to the collaboration. It takes high-level thinkers to understand you have to invest in collaborators. You have to invest in convening, because the results are going to be more than the sum of their parts. That's why we need foundations and government and individuals who understand the power of, I call us a backbone organization. We're an umbrella. We're not always the people that are painting the wonderful paintings,
Right.
but we're powering the artists. We're like, sometimes we're like the electric company. We may not be the light or the dishwasher, but we're the power that makes it happen. So that's the power of convening.
What's your ultimate goal for the Assembly for the Arts? If you could have a vision.
Our vision is that one day we will be true when we say Cleveland is not only a city of great art, it is a city of great equity. How can we show the country what it means? You know as well as I know our checkered past in Cleveland when it comes to the economic disparities, the racial disparities, the health disparities. How can we use the arts to bring those together and working in partnership with government, with nonprofits, with philanthropy, with all parts of our sector? My dream is that we can stand tall and say, we've done everything we can, and we can show that we've moved the needle. Are we going to continue to be one of the poorest cities in the nation? And where do artists and creatives help us to move those needles? That's my dream, that we're part of moving those needles, so we can look at the places that I grew up, Glenville and Huff and other parts of our city. These are places that I want to live. These are places that I want my grandkids to live, or my nieces and nephews to be part of, because these elevate the American spirit. What Langston Hughes said, I too sing America. Can we too sing Cleveland? So that's part of what I'm all about.
That's part of your vision. Do you guys still have the newsletter? Because I remember they used to feature artists in that newsletter, because they featured me once. So they still
Wow, we featured you?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
goodness. We probably should bring it back.
Yeah, you should.
We don't do many print publications, although I love to. I'm going to take it back to my team. We need to get back to some print items. We do have, the e-blasts. Everyone has those email blasts.
Right.
There's a wonderful print publication for visual arts called Can Journal, put out by a guy named Michael Gill. He covers the whole scene. I mentioned Can Journal before. Mm-hmm. And it's really a running commentary on the visual arts scene. There are others as well, but that's probably the most prominent. You'll find it at galleries. You'll find it at the library. You'll go to it's there. It's free. It's free to the public, but it comes out monthly, and it's a fabulous publication. And having a print publication to document is so important, something that's tangible. So let me take that back to the team. See how maybe we should get back to featuring some wonderful creatives.
Yeah, it was great. It was a wonderful. They did a wonderful job. So if an artist wants to get in touch with Assembly for the Arts, what's the best way?
The best way is to become a member of Assembly. Then you're going to access all these services. You get discounts or free admission to these gatherings. And you visit our website, very simply, assemblycle.org. That's assemblycle.org.
We'll put that on the board.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
It is so great to be here with you. And I'm sorry it took this long, but let's not let it take that much longer again.
It was wonderful. I appreciate it. I want to thank my special guest, Jeremy Johnson, for hanging out with us today. So that's it, Cleveland, we're out. But remember, a true artist is not only inspired, but inspires others. I'm Cornell Calhoun III for TV 20 and Creative Focus. Until the next time becomes our time, be well, be safe.